Afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are here live on Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we are so excited that you're here with us today. I know for most of us, we are actually at the top of the week, or I should say at the bottom of the week. And so as a result of that, our thought process is a little different today because of the fact that we're thinking about the weekend. But I tell you, we've had such a wonderful week and a lot of really good engagement with what we've been doing, and we're excited about that. And so, with that said, today we're going to be talking about differentiation strategy. Yes, we are talking about strategizing and how can we um, uh, become the company that has a unique value proposition, that competitive edge that makes a difference in our industry and actually in our um, territory, whatever that territory might be. Some of us are doing business across the United States. Some of us are doing business across the world. Some of us are doing business across our city, okay, in our neighborhood, in our zip code zone. But the thing that I want you to understand is wherever you're doing business, you need to actually have something that is a strategy of differentiation that gives you the part of the market that you need to have, okay? You need to command as much of that market as you can. Even if you're a niche business, you need to, in your niche, try to be at the top of your game so that you're the most often chosen when someone has to make a selection between you and another company. Well, we're going to talk about some of those things today, but get us started. Javon, can you roll our slides, please? Let's bring up the slides because we're going to get started by just laying the groundwork for what having a differentiation strategy is all about. Well, creating your unique value proposition is really, really important. And in a crowded market, it is important for you to stand out. You have got to be able to have your place. In your strong differentiation strategy is going to help you capture attention. There are lots of phones a person can have. There are lots of tablets and there are lots of computers. But I have to say that Apple has carved out a place in the world for itself that makes it, kind of at the top of its game in a few areas. It might sell a lot of different products, but for some of its key products, it is the most sought after choice. And I want you to be thinking about that and think about how in your industry, how could you make yourself, the most sought after choice, or a person that is the most sought after choice in your neighborhood, in your community, or in, for that matter, in a community that you might be very much the present choice. you know okay, you might, in other words, you might be in a place where you have the same type of product that someone who is across the street from you has, but there's something that you could be doing differently, something that's compelling that makes someone want to use you over that person. You've got to have that clear, unique value proposition that everyone chooses time after time because of something that you do that is grossly different. I mean, just it gives people the desire to want to use you every time. And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. But right now, Javon, I want you to roll our video because we're going to look at a case study first today. Normally we look at the case studies last, or we, kind of talk about them last. But today I want to start with a case study because I want you to get the idea, in your mind before we start rolling down the street and telling you how you can do it for your company. So let's take a look at the video. Ever pondered what sets Cirque du Soleil apart from a conventional circus? Cirque du Soleil shakes up the conventional circus concept by weaving a seamless narrative through a fusion of enchanting circus arts, street performances, and riveting theater. On the contrary, the age-old circus model is a blend of different acts with animal shows, clown routines, and thrilling daredevil stunts. Cirque du Soleil and customary circuses operate on distinct business models that cater to varied audience tastes in the entertainment landscape. It's an intriguing narrative of two different business models, each with its unique strategy to engage audiences and carve a unique position in the fiercely competitive entertainment industry.
As the two models diverge, the experiences they offer to their audiences become distinct. Traditional circuses serve as a source of uncomplicated amusement for families, adhering to a tried and true formula that generations have reveled in. On the other hand, Cirque du Soleil aims to cater to a more eclectic and refined audience. Their focus isn't solely on delivering entertainment, but rather on curating an immersive and artistic experience that leaves spectators spellbound. This schism reflects in their brands and public image. Old school are often under the lens due to issues related to animal welfare. Cirque du Soleil, by cutting out animal acts, tackles these ethical concerns head on. It boosts its standing as a trailblazer and a game changer in the circus art sphere, making it not just a solution to ethical concerns, but also a beacon of innovation. This innovative approach extends to their channels of distribution. Unlike traditional circuses, which rely on local ticket sales and community promotion, Cirque du Soleil takes its shows on a world tour. By partnering with luxury venues and leveraging digital marketing, it is able to reach audiences far beyond the local community. The approach Cirque du Soleil takes to revenue generation mirrors the innovation seen in its performances, moving away from the retail model of traditional circuses, which primarily rely on ticket sales and merchandise. Cirque du Soleil has diversified its revenue streams. Premium ticket sales, exclusive merchandise, and intellectual property licensing all form part of its revenue model. At its very core, Cirque du Soleil has brilliantly crafted a new market space, raising the bar for the entertainment industry. The shining exemplification of the blue ocean strategy by Cirque du Soleil highlights the vast potential of reimagining traditional models to discover hidden opportunities. The journey of Cirque du Soleil underlines the significance of innovation and adaptability within any industry and stands as a model for those eager to reshape their own sectors. So when next find yourself entranced by the spectacular performances of Cirque du Soleil, keep in mind, more than mere entertainment. It's an affirmation of the power of innovation, a lesson in business strategy, and a reminder that with the right approach, you can revolutionize an entire industry.
Okay, so understanding the concept of differentiation and in your marketplace, you can become that company that people chooses over another company because your innovation, your ability to climb out of an age-old industry into, a new format of it, has you just ahead of the game. I mean, you're using socials, you're using every possible way to let people know that what you have is something that they need, and you're doing it often, and you're doing it even if you only are like for Cirque du Soleil, they are actually going across the country, and so they're not in the same place for more than a certain amount of time, and that means that they're only coming to some areas every year around that time. But people are waiting all year to get access to them. Another one that another one of these types of companies that does something very similar. Well, it used to. I'm not sure if they're still around now, but I know they used to be, and that was the Universal Circus. Okay, because they were one that people would just wait every year until they got to their area, and they would go so that they get an opportunity to see the circus done from a soul perspective. Okay. And I know that there are several different types of event, you know, models that use the same type of strategy. I remember, seeing the ice skating, and I can't remember what the name of the different ones were, but I know there were certain ones that Walt Disney did, and there were other ones that other companies that had, cartoon characters, or they had, movies that were animated, and they would model certain types of ice skating activities, events, entertainment events after those particular characters and put them on the road. The Ice Capades, that's what it was called, the Ice Capades. And so I remember seeing that when I was a child, and it was such a wonderful thing to wait for them to come into town every year because we would get an opportunity to go. So I'm saying to you that in your company, what are you doing that's different? What is it that other people are not doing that you are doing that could command you that part of the market share? So let's go back to the slides, please. Next slide, please. So, how do you understand the target market? How do you know, first of all, what you want to offer to people? Well, before you can know what you want to offer to people, you got to understand the people that you're going to offer that particular product to. So, getting to know the target market is going to be important. So, what is your target audience? Okay, and we talked about this a few times, and we're going to talk about it again today. That there's a difference between your target customer and your target audience. You got to be able to identify your ideal customers and understand their needs, their pain points, and their motivations. And so that goes back to one of the things that we said, since we started teaching about you having an empathy map. And having the empathy map helps you to understand your ideal customer and what they are feeling, what they are needing or wanting, and why they buy, okay? And why they would buy from you over someone else. So understanding that ideal customer could take you then to understanding your target audience. Your ideal customer is a segment of people inside of the audience, right? You might have a lot of people in the audience, but you have some ideal people who are going to be your early adapters, or adopters, I should say, the people who are going to prefer you and come to you all the time, the people who you are actually most aligned with. And those avatars or people, those ideal customers, are the ones that you want to get to know the best. And you also want to know your audience, though, because their ideal customers are in the audience. And so the better you know the audience, the better you're going to be able to pick out of the audience the ideal customers. And that will help you to know how to craft your unique value proposition. Okay, market research. You got to be able to conduct thorough market research to gain insights into your target market and know that, what their preferences are and their existing solutions that they're using right now, so you can see where you can identify gaps that you possibly could meet that need in, or, exceed what someone else is doing, because you not only do this, but you do that, or you do it in a particular way that makes you the most attractive out of the group of people that are providing that service. So that's really, really important for you to be able to conduct a thorough market research. So where can you get this market research? Well, we did a previous session about market research and business intelligence, and I kind of talked to you about some places, but there are some places that you can go that are free online to get a little bit of information. So if you go to Statista, STATISTA.com, you're able to get some limited information about different things in markets. And you can go there, and in the search window, you can pull up certain things and it'll give you a little bit of information. You can also do look for industry reports, because from time to time, there are some free industry reports on different websites, because they're trying to get your business for other things. And so they'll provide you free information in their blogs, or free credible information sometimes, on their website, just so that they can get you to use their service for a particular item or two. And based on that, you can probably get a wonderful amount of good information, good market research in that way. I would also use perplexity.ai, because I have been able to put in industry report about and click the button to submit, and it brings me back options for different places where I can get market research. And that is always going to be good when you have choices, of where you can get the thorough market research. Sometimes you don't need very much information off of the site in order to answer the questions that you might have. But in order for you to really be able to conduct thorough market research, you got to be able to know what questions to ask. And so that's going to get you back to your target audience and your ideal customers. What are your target customers, your ideal customers looking for? And then when you're looking for the research, you can ask those types of questions, right? Then competitor analysis. How do you analyze your competition? Well, you just know who they are first. You got to, find out how many people are providing this particular type of service in your area, in your neighborhood, in your location. And if you're an online business, in, you know, in the web, okay? So, because you're competing against a huge number of people if you're online. All right. So you want to be able to know their unique value propositions as well, their weaknesses, so you know how to differentiate yourself from them. And this could help you look at and find some opportunities. And that's really cool when you can look and find opportunities based on what your competitors are not doing. So I would say, use this strategy for looking at who's doing what you're doing and who's doing what you're doing without doing everything you're doing. That is going to be a key thing. Okay, next slide, please. So, how do you identify your unique value proposition? Well, there's 4 steps here, 4 good questions that you can ask yourself about what you do so that you can come up with a really good, unique value proposition. So, the first question is, what are you good at? You got to be able to know your own unique strengths and capabilities and your expertise and what makes you different. I talk a lot about my receipts that I have on my walls. Well, because of those receipts, I've got a list of things that I can do. And then I have a list of things within those things that I can do well. Then I've got a list of things within those things that I do well that I'm an expert at. And then getting down to what I'm what I'm an expert at, I can now look at those items and see what opportunities are there because of me having, all of these abilities and having the training. What do I like to do of those things? Because there's some things I'm really good at that I just really don't prefer to do. But I've got to be able to understand me first and my company first before I start asking, about anybody else, especially the people that I'm going to serve. So once I kind of answered the what am I good at question, then I can see what problem do I solve? Because now I've gotten down to the things that I'm good at, the things that I'm an expert at, the things that, I like to do, okay, within those things. And now I can look at what problems can I solve utilizing those things. Clearly define the pain point that my audience has, okay? And I can look at the audience and say, okay, these are the areas where they're bleeding, and here's how I can stop the bleeding, and here are the people that I can stop the bleeding for the fastest and in a comprehensive way so they'll never bleed again. I mean, those are really, really key things. I mean, primary things that you want to be able to answer when you're trying to find the solution to a problem. Then you got to look at the uniqueness of what you do. What is your unique selling point? Highlight the key differences between you and the competitor. Notice in my video, I talked about how the traditional circus differed from from Cirque du Soleil. And in looking at the traditional circus, I use the traditional circus as the competitor, even though there are so many different types of circuses in the traditional circus landscape. I use the whole thing as the as the competitor to Cirque du Soleil, so I could show how they differentiated themselves from the masses. And based on that, it has made Cirque du Soleil the most preferred choice for a lot of people. So when we're looking at the features or the benefits that set you apart from your competition, you have to be able to understand there are certain things in there that are the key differentiators. So, I mean, I want you to write down everything that differentiates you from your competitors, but then I want you to kind of narrow that, go in there and narrow it down to what are my 5 key But maybe you can start at 25 and go down to 10. And from the 10, you can go down to 5. Because if you can get down to the 5 key things that differentiate you from everybody else in your market or your main competitors, then you now can look at what value you offer. So you're looking at and are looking for, I should say, the tangible and the intangible value that you deliver to your customers beyond just your features and benefits. I mean, really, what value do you offer? What is the added value that you can offer? How can people's lives be changed from doing business with you over everyone else in the market? And that's going to be really, really important. Next slide, please. So, how do you develop a compelling, unique value proposition? Well, the first thing is you got to make sure it's concise and clear. If your unique offer, your competitive edge, is not something that people understand to be a competitive edge, okay, then the unique value proposition doesn't make as much sense to them. And it's not something that they use to differentiate you from other people. And so then, you just get lumped in there with everybody that sells rice. So, I mean, when I'm looking for a restaurant that sells jollof rice, okay, and those of you who are from Africa or love African food, especially Nigerian food, you know about that jollof rice, okay? And so understanding that there are lots of jollof rice restaurants that sell jollof rice. And let me just say that. There are lots of restaurants that sell rice, but then there's some restaurants that really sell. They have the recipe, they have the ambiance, they have the unique spices, and they have the even the settings and the other things on the menu that you pair with the jollof rice. And so when you're looking at it from that standpoint, I am going to have a memorable experience forever based on me buying from a particular African restaurant that is in Grand Prairie, okay, Texas, because their jollof rice is amazing in comparison to jollof rice that I've bought in other places in the United States, not just in Texas, but in the United States. So, and I've heard people say, you know what, I can take you to a restaurant over here in California. They've got the best jollof rice. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I haven't found it yet. So you got to be able to understand that if you have that restaurant, you got to use some clear language and avoid jargon. I mean, use language that everybody can understand. And when they're looking for jollof rice with the specific types of, flavors, and they're looking for a restaurant that has a certain type of ambiance and that has the ability for you to sit down and that has the wait staff that, treats you well. Those are things that you can communicate very clearly through your brand and through the way that you push out your marketing materials. So making sure that you keep your unique value proposition brief. I mean, down to 3 or 4 words. I use Apple a lot because I like Apple products. And so one of the things that I remember about Steve Jobs is he had a 2-word differentiation statement. Think different. End of story. And I remember when they launched that campaign, and I just loved it because it did embody everything that Apple was at that time. It was a way of thinking different. They called people who use Apple products at that time a part of a cult, because the following that Apple had would sit out whenever a new anything was being, launched. People would be camped out for hours. I mean, sometimes even 24, just so they can get in the first few, numbers. Because of course, when Apple, at one point in time, when they were launching their new phones and tablets and things, they only released a certain amount of them, on day one. And people who didn't get it on day one had to wait sometimes 2 or 3 weeks because it just was only a certain amount that were available. And I learned how to break the mold because I didn't ever go to the Apple store to buy a new device. I bought it on the day when everybody else bought it, but I bought it from Best Buy. Now, let me just tell you, because at that time, there was a high likelihood that I would be number 10 or less in line at a Best Buy. And it was very often that I was number one, two, or three, okay, in line to get what I needed to get and move on with life. I don't like standing in lines. But anyway, just saying, you know, that unique value proposition of think different, had me in a place of where I understood that when they released something, it was going to be the top of the market. It was going to be something that was very different from anything else on the market. And there was going to be a lot of value packed into whatever it was I was buying, from the very first iPhone all the way to the most recent iPad. And it's just been that way. You have to make sure that your compelling UVP is benefit oriented. You focus on the benefits that your customers will receive rather than simply listing the features of the device or the features of the company, or for that matter, the menu items. You got to tell them the flavors, you got to set the stage, to how they're going to feel when they get finished eating this wonderful meal. You got to make sure that they feel it, they sense it, they embody it, and they can't help but get to you to take a part of it. Then you got to be credible and you have to be unique. There cannot be, you know, 100 people offering the same thing you offer the same way you offer it in the marketplace. You have to ensure that your unique value proposition is believable and that it resonates with your target audience. Highlight your unique value. And so it's important for you to make sure not only that you have unique value, but that you have the way you provide the unique value that is going to make sure that people believe you and that they trust you and that they like you. And in doing that, they're going to actually come to you to get that particular product. Then have it where you have some actionable steps, and some very persuasive tones or communication to get people to buy. Okay. You should be able to inspire action with your branding, with your messaging. If you are having a commercial or other types of material go out, it's got to be something that people are so inspired that it's like, I want that. Okay. I want to be a part of that. I want to participate. Since I've got to do this thing anyway, I want to do it with them. Right. You want to be able to encourage customers to learn more or engage with your brand. You want to give things away so that they have the ability to take to have a sample, right? So they can get hooked, on having what it is that you offer. Next slide, please. So, how do you align your UVP with your brand messaging? Well, there's three ways. You have to have, again, the brand identity. How do you, make sure that your brand has no brand confusion? I talked with someone about this a few weeks ago. I was in a meeting and I was helping them we were looking over their brand, and there's a very, very familiar brand that has two of the letters that they have in their brand used a specific way. And I know that that company has gone the length and the breadth to make sure that they did the what was necessary. They went out and what did they do? They actually made sure that they have a trademark on their use of those letters in that way. And so because of that, I told them, I said, hey, you got to add something else to your brand. You got to add something else to your name. You can't go out there like that because you're going to get, hit with at least a cease and desist if you get big enough. Okay. If they find out that you're in the market using the letters in the same way that they use those letters, that's called infringement and they can sue you. But at first, they'll just start by sending you probably a nice little message to let you know, hey, we paid for this. It's ours, and so we'd like you to stop using it because it is brand confusion for us, but it's also brand confusion for you. So why even go down that street? I mean, sure, you could take advantage of, having something that sounds like that, but use different letters or different lettering. I mean, make it a part, but don't make it, so obvious that you're playing off of that name, because you want to be unique in the industry and you want to be unique in business, period, so that your brand has a way of sitting on its own bottom. It has a way of being its own thing. So you want to have the personality, the positioning in your brand, and the value system within your brand that actually ensures that people can look at it and say, oh, that's so and so. If you look at the Golden Arches, it's McDonald's. If you look at, there are several things that you can look at without even having the name of the company underneath, and what company it is. When you see the Apple logo, it doesn't say Apple. You see an apple. It's an apple that is shaped a certain way with, certain things on it that are positioned. It's got a personality, and that is Apple. Okay. With Amazon, they don't have to put the Amazon name. They just got that one little arrow that looks a certain kind of strange way, but that lets this is Amazon. So when we're looking at brands, we've got to be thinking about, how do we have our identity and our message, coincide, to make sure that people get who we are from their very first view. Then the messaging strategy, you got to be able to integrate your unique value proposition into all of your communication channels. I mean, from your, email signature to your logo to your socials to your, snail mail that you have going out, even on your envelopes. When I walk into your doors at your location, I've got to make sure that I get the right message. So having the right messaging strategy, only using, if you're going to use blue, you need to know what your hex code is, so that every time somebody sees your blue on a website or on anything in your branding, it is the same blue, okay, all the time. It's the blue that's yours, okay, that you chose for your brand identity. If you have 2 or 3 different colors and you know what those colors are, use the same hue of those colors as much as possible every time. Why? Because it gives people the ability for them to identify with what is considered yours in your UVP. Okay. Customer experience. You got to deliver consistent brand experience. We've talked about the user experience over and over and over again. And if you're able to reflect your unique value proposition in the experience, it changes everything for your company. Because when people come to you, they can say, you know what, I want to go to them and I want to go in the office because they have such a wonderful, environment in there. I just feel some kind of way when I'm inside of that office. I feel like they're going to take care of me, and it reinforces your value to the customers. I have people that come to our online office, they come into Zoom, and because we have things set up in our Zoom a certain way, when they get in there, they have a video that they can watch while they're waiting to have the meeting. And I have people tell me this all the time, man, I just love coming to your online office because it's an experience. You've got to make sure that whatever your customer's experience is with you, it's always on point, it's top notch, it's above board, it's everything that they need to have to make sure that they want to continue to do business with your business. Okay. And so that is, just my, I should say my top 3 things, when it comes to your brand and messaging. Okay. Next slide, please. So, what's a way that you can communicate your UVP effectively? Well, we talked about the clear and concise messaging, but I just want to make it, drill it in here. Use simple and engaging language. Okay. You don't need to have a 3-paragraph anything on your website explaining to people what your company is all about. Use 3 words. You could say a lot more with less. Okay. Just say it in a way that it resonates with the people who you want to do business with, right? Talk about the things that are important to them, not the things that are important for you to be able to provide the service. No, what is the thing that is important to them in utilizing the service? Then have some strategic placement. Where are you going to put that messaging? Make it prominent, put it in the header. Okay. Don't make me read 3 pages in before I really understand what you do. Help me to understand what you do and how you do it for me. In other words, how is this going to benefit me? What is it that I will get if I use you? I need to be able to see that in the first 9 seconds that I'm on your site. That is very, very important. And then, having landing pages that support the material. If you have 3 words, then maybe a little bit lower, talk about what those 3 words mean. And then underneath that section, then you can put a learn more that might take them a little bit further down in the page or to a different page if necessary, so that they can dive in, or buy now. Okay, buy today. All of those are really important. And then have some marketing materials to support it. If somebody says, hey, can you send me a brochure on this thing? Have a way of, even if it's an online brochure, having something set up so you can just fire that off so people can see it. It's important for you to be able to have some strategic placement and have it available quickly so people can get it today if they want to get it today. Then have some consistent repetition. Reinforce that unique value proposition in your marketing messages, in your content, and in the customer interactions when you're talking to people. Help them to hear it more than once, because hearing it 3 times, even if they've already purchased, sometimes they'll buy it for a friend, okay, or they're gotta tell their friend, because it's just resonating with them in such a way that it's like, man, I want to do this, I want to use this, and I need to make sure that other people who I know get the same opportunity, because this has been such a value to me. Then do some visual storytelling. I was talking, yesterday with my son-in-law, and I was, telling him, I said, when you want to communicate something effectively to others, you need to first tell it to them from, using your language, then tell it to them in a story and an analogy, something compelling that will give them a way to see it, to see what you're saying, because you got to speak to several different modalities and help people to understand what you're trying to communicate. Then after you do that, give them an opportunity to tell you what you said, okay? So you can make sure they understood it. And then, of course, you can restate it, again, to make that lasting connection. But to bring your UVP to life, sometimes you have to go great lengths to make it memorable. So memorialize it in a story or an analogy, some way that helps people to understand how this thing will work for them. Case studies are amazing, and I love using those because people find themselves in the case study. They can find themselves there to see, okay, if I used it, this is how I could use it, because another person who's like me uses it this kind of way. Next slide, please. So how do we implement? How do we implement the differentiation strategy? Well, the first thing is we got to have some product development. Continuously innovate and develop your products or service to maintain your competitive edge. It does you no good to drop something in the market that's hot and then have 5 people who are your competitors come into the market and do it the same way you're doing it, and you don't change a thing. No, you got to stay at the head ahead of your game. You got to stay at the top. And the way that you stay at the top is to, always add a little something special. Make it so that there's, if they're doing it like you're doing it, change up your game enough to make sure that you have, now pushed the edge, a little bit further. Okay. Provide exceptional customer service that exceeds expectations and reinforces your value. So it's not enough for you to just develop and iterate on top of the products that you have, but you got to have the service to emulate that same level of expertise. You have to be able to I should say, continuously, implementing, and not just implement one time and just wait for people to come after that. No, you've got to constantly reinforce the value by making sure that every time somebody has an interaction with anything having to do with your company, that is going to be an exceptional experience. Okay. Then in your marketing and sales, targeted marketing and sales strategies need to be used, even though you might be like us, where we're like at almost 100% referral base. Our market is really a warm market. People are bringing people to us because they like the service that they got, and they like the products that they got, and they haven't been able to find them anywhere else, at the level that we're providing it. So what do? They bring their friends. Okay. But even if you're doing that, you still want to have a way of converting the sale. I know people that get referrals and they don't have a 90% close rate on the referrals. We've got a 95% close rate on our referrals. And I want to tell you that it's really important that if somebody comes to you, you're documenting a lead so that you can know what your conversion rate is. Because if you document your leads and you see who goes from a lead to a conversion, that helps you to understand, how effective you are at converting a sale. And you've got to be able to understand, what it is that it takes for you to convert a person from a lead to a sale. You've got to do that. If you can make that happen for yourself, then what you're doing now is you are creating an opportunity for you to up your game. Because when you see what didn't work, then that tells you what you need to do more of or what you don't need to be doing in order to increase the engagement rate and increase the sales conversions. Now, employee engagement is key. We've talked about this. We talked about it earlier in the week on Tuesday. You got to make sure that you are empowering, you're training, you're engaging your employees to embody your brand. Okay, because if your brand speaks one way and your employees are demonstrating something different, it's going to affect the closed sale. Your close ratio is going to be diminished when you don't have the brand experience and the employees or contractors to match. Okay, that brand experience across the board, it's just, it will suffer. So you got to deliver exceptional customer experiences across the board. Every area needs to be the same. Next slide, please. So our conclusion today is that a strong differentiation strategy is crucial for success in a competitive market. When you understand your target market and you can identify your UVP, and you can communicate it effectively, then you attract customers. You can build the brand loyalty, and then you can achieve your business goals. You've got to be able to take that type of strategy and move across your company, because when you do that, every area of the company is going to be as successful as the other. And so I'm just saying today that, I know this has been kind of a hot topic. We jumped in here. We were hot when we came in and we're hot when we're going out, because it's important for you to be able to differentiate yourself in the market to make sure that you have what it is that you need to have so that your company is the most often chosen in your industry. This has been Patience Rose with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we'll see you again next time.